Okay, so for part 2 of the lesson, what we're going to be looking at is adding and subtracting polynomials. So we're going to be literally just adding polynomials is literally just, can you combine like terms? So if you all remember from Algebra 1, like terms, those are parts of the equation that have the same variable and they got the same exponent. Please do not change the variables or the exponents. So normally when you're doing this, you're going to see, hey, you got one equation in a parentheses, you got a second equation in another parentheses, and you're just going to add the like terms. So we're just going to jump into a couple problems. Okay, so I've got 3 problems here. This should be real nice and simple. I'm going to start with what would end up being the degree of my answer. So I see that the largest exponent in this whole problem is a 3. So I've got my 3x cubed. Now, I'm actually not adding anything to that, so there's the start of my answer. Now I'm going to look for, after x to the 3rd power, I'm going to look for x to the 2nd power. I can see, well, I've got a plus 2x squared. I've got a positive 4x squared. So 2x squared plus 4x squared. 2 plus 4 is 6x squared. Again, we don't change that little variable. We don't change the exponent. After x squared, we're going to look at just the x. So we have negative 5x plus 2x would be my like terms. Negative 5 plus 2 would be negative 3. And I still have the x with it. And then I'm going to finish up with 7 and minus 3 is my 2 constants. 7 minus 3 would be 4. And guess what? There's my answer. Okay, and so on number 2. Number 2, we have 6x to the 2nd power minus 13x plus 4 plus 8x squared minus 7x plus 25. So I'm going to start by finding the largest exponent in the problem, the largest exponent being that 2. I have 2 of these, so I'm going to add the 6x squared plus 8x squared. So 6x squared plus 8x squared would leave us with 14x squared. Okay, after I've done my squared terms, I'm going to look at my linear terms second. So just my plain old x's. So negative 13x, negative 17x, or minus 7x would leave us with negative 20x. Then I finish up with my constants. And with my constants, I can see I've got 4 and 25. So 4 plus 25 be plus 29. Again, there's my answer. 14x squared minus 20x plus 29. So the third and final equation, the first thing that I notice when I look at it is this seems to not be in standard form for the first equation. The second equation doesn't seem to be in standard form either. So I'm going to start by looking for the largest exponent in the problem. I can see I've got 2x to the 3rd powers. So my degree is 3. So I'm going to start off with negative 2x squared plus 5x, or negative 2x to the 3rd power plus 5x to the 3rd power. And so negative 2 plus 5 would be 3x to the 3rd power. And then I'm going to look for x squareds. So I see I've got a negative 9x squared. I have a positive 8x squared. Negative 9 plus 8 would be negative 1x squared. Or you could just write negative x squared, doesn't really matter. After that, I'm going to look for my just linear term next. I'm going to be looking for my plain x, so I've got a positive 4x. And from the other equation, I have a negative 6x. 4x take away 6x. 4 minus 6 would be negative 2x. And then we've got our constant at the end. So we've got plus 7, we've got minus 7. 7 take away 7 is 0. So I'm actually not going to write anything at the back. For this one, I'm going to just rewrite my answers 3x to the 3rd power minus x squared minus 2x. And hey, I'm done with that. Okay, so the next item we have is how do we subtract? Okay, so with subtracting, it's pretty much the same. You're going to take the negative sign from the middle of the 2 equations when you've got f of x minus g of x And you're going to distribute into that second equation, and then it's an addition problem. So you're just combining like terms at that point. So when I look at the very first problem, 2x to the third power plus 8x squared plus x plus 10, and I'm subtracting the equation of 5x squared minus 4x plus 6, my first equation stays the same. 2x cubed plus 8x squared plus 1x plus 10. I take that negative sign and I distribute. All that's really going to do is change the signs of everything in here. So I've got minus 5x squared plus 4x minus 6. And hey, this is now exactly like what we just finished doing on the previous slide. So I've got I see my biggest exponent's a 3. That is the only x to the third power in the problem, so I'm going to start off with 2x to the third power. Okay, the next thing that I have is my x squared. I've got 8x squared minus 5x squared. 8 minus 5 would be 3x squared. Then I see I've got 1x plus 4 more x's. 1x plus 4x would be plus 5x. And then I finish off, I've got 10, subtract 6. 10 minus 6 would be 4. And I'm finished. Okay, and literally this is all you got to do on these. So the second problem, I'm going to take that negative sign, I'm going to distribute it. I leave my first equation the same, 3x squared plus 8x to the third power minus 9x. So when I distribute my negative sign, it changes all my signs, so that's minus 2x to the third power now, minus 3x plus 4x squared plus 1. I'm going to look for my like terms. So I always start by looking for the biggest exponent, and I see I've got, well, my biggest exponent starts with positive 8x cubed and negative 2x cubed. So 8x cubed minus 2x cubed would be 6x cubed. After x to the third power, I'm going to look for x to the second power. I've got 3x squared plus 4x squared. 3 plus 4 would be 7x squared. The next thing we've got is negative 9x minus 3 more x minus 12x. And this time I only have the one constant, the plus 1 here at the end. So I'm going to finish off with plus 1. Hey, there's my answer, and I'm finished. Okay, so what you need to do now is you need to get on Google Classroom. You need to click on the link to go to the Google form to try a couple practice problems. After you've tried them, it's going to tell you if you got them right or not. And what I want you to do after you have done the Google form is, and you've gone over the problems, you may need to go over them with a partner or with your group, but you'll need to go to my desk and get the worksheet adding and subtracting polynomials from the sub. Whatever you get done, I want you to turn into the substitute today, even if you don't finish. Just so I can see that you did something while I was out. Once I get back on Wednesday, we'll pass it back. We're going to go over the answers at that point. But I do need to see that you've tried it. Okay, I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you all next week.